Blog Talk Radio.
You're a business owner.
Check.
You have business owner's insurance.
Check.
And 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been enough. Today, small businesses are being targeted and taken down by hackers. Medical offices, consultants, CPAs, any business that's built success has everything to lose. You probably have cybersecurity installed on your computer.
Check.
But you probably don't have cyber insurance. Coverage against loss and damage if your data is compromised. Cyber Policy covers that gap. Cyberpolicy.com shops the leading cyber insurers to find you the right policy at the right price to avoid a catastrophe. Coverage against loss and damage if your data is compromised. Get a custom quote today in just 4 minutes. And for a limited time, use the promo code BLOGTALK to get Norton's small business protection for up to 5 devices. Free when you sign up for cyber insurance. Plan, prevent, insure. Visit cyberpolicy.com. That's cyberpolicy.com.
Blog Talk Radio.
Today's franchise interview shout out goes to the Source Direct. Source Direct is an inventor's one-stop shop. Source Direct eliminates the disconnect in dealing with different companies from each phase of development and marketing. Instead, Source Direct can manage every stage of the process from the drawing board to the customer. Go to thesourcedirect.net and find out how you can get started. That's www.thesourcedirect.net.
Franchise interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews. The Stone Coat Franchise Opportunity. Are you looking for a unique and lucrative franchise opportunity? If so, take a look at Stone Coat. With a patented process which creates a true stone finish on almost any wall or ceiling, Stone Coat is a true game-changing product in the multi-billion-dollar construction industry. Stone Coat is applied faster, cleaner, and cheaper than conventional quarried stone, which saves both time and money. With advantages in remodel and new construction of both residential and commercial projects, Stone Coat is a true crossover product. The Stone Coat franchise opportunity provides a low startup cost, low operating expenses, comprehensive training, ongoing support, and no royalty payments. For more information on the Stone Coat franchise opportunity, go to www.stonecoatfranchise.com. That's www.stonecoatfranchise.com or call us at 972-380-2700. That's 972-380-2700.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 10 years now, we've been asking the Franchpreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Patrice Rice and Brian Miller from Patrice and Associates, and founded in 1989 in the basement of Patrice's home. Patrice and Associates Hospitality Recruiting has grown to become one of the largest restaurant recruiting and hospitality recruiting firms in the country. Hi, Patrice. Hi, Brian. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Hi. We're super
it's
excited
my
to be
pleasure.
Here.
Oh, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Patrice. It's great to have you on the show. We always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning? I'll start with you, Patrice.
I'm in Maryland, the Annapolis, Maryland area.
Oh, fantastic. How's the weather down there today?
Rainy.
Yeah, rainy. Okay, well, I guess it's coming up this way, Patrice, because we're in Easton, Pennsylvania, so I'm sure it's heading up this way then. And, Brian, how about yourself? Where are you calling from today?
Well, today I'm calling from Connecticut. I'm traveling today, but as Patrice said, our headquarters is just south of Annapolis, Maryland.
Oh, fantastic. Brian, I was, looking at your background before the show. You've been in franchising, quite a long time. Not to age you, but how did you get involved with Patrice and Associates, and what's your role with Patrice and Associates?
Well, thank you. I've been in franchising, yes, for a very long time, over 27 years. The better part of that time, 20 years or so in franchising and staffing. I was actually Patrice's business coach for about a year and a half, and as things would have it, Patrice and I talked about me joining her as a partner, and about 3 years ago I became a partner in Patrice and Associates. Very excited about the opportunity, and my role there is as the Chief Operating Officer, so operations.
That's fantastic. Brian, what do you like most about franchising? I mean, when we have someone, on the show like yourself, you've been in franchising such a long time now. What is it that you like most about franchising, Brian?
Well, I believe that small businesses really are the foundation of our economy, and they're the primary job creators. And so I think franchising is a unique way for people to take control of their own destiny, fulfill and create their own dreams, and at the same time, it's the engine that drives the economy. So that is probably the biggest thing I'm excited about franchising, and why I love it so much, because I see it as having benefits all the way around. As we know, the IFA says that, when you're in franchising, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. Mm-hmm. But specifically about Patrice and Associates, I think the thing that is very exciting is what we do every day is we help people. We change people's lives by providing them great careers, and that's why franchising in the staffing industry, and specifically what we do at P&A, is so rewarding.
That's terrific. And Patrice, you founded Patrice and Associates 27 years ago, and I love this story. How it started off, with a humble beginning. It started off in the basement. What inspired you to start the company, Patrice?
Well, I've always been an entrepreneur, and I've done many things. I've I've owned pet stores, and I've owned the first powerboat, charter boat fleet on the Chesapeake Bay, and I was the first woman captain on the Chesapeake Bay. And I started recruiting for another agency that was struggling, and I started my own business in the basement of my house and in professional sales and IT, and I kind of found out by accident one day, and it was the day that changed my life, that this industry used agencies, and I switched 100%. So I've been doing this for quite some time. From when I worked for the other agency and had to wait for my non-compete to be over, I wrote a book on how to interview and create a very unique resume and gave classes to people on how to interview. And then I started my own agency and then found out this industry uses recruiters. And this industry is a recruiter's dream. It's just that most of my franchisees have no clue because they've never recruited before. In any other industry, you spend a lot of time looking for jobs to fill, and then you have to fill them. We don't have to look for jobs to fill. We have between 500 and 600 open jobs every day. So it's a wonderful industry to be a recruiter in.
How did you know at what time to start franchising the concept, Patrice?
Well, when I ran it as an agency for the first 20 years, I had like 40 recruiters that worked for me that lived all over the country. And I kind of woke up one morning and realized I was giving away an instant business. You know, if you're going to be a real estate broker, you have to pay to take the class and then get your license and go sit in an office and pay for your own ads and put flyers in mailboxes of nice neighborhoods to try to find buyers and sellers. Well, I had everything. I had an instant business. All somebody had to do was work it. And so, recruiters, would come and go, and it was really difficult to work with them across the country and spend a lot of time training them in the hopes that one day they will, do well. And I decided that I really wasn't attracting the kind of person I was looking for. I wanted to attract more business-minded people to work with. And they want two things. They want to own something and they want to make more money. And that's when I decided to franchise. So I'm now in my 7th year of franchising.
Wow.
I have over 100 franchisees, and as about 4 months ago, we're now in Canada.
That's terrific. Congratulations on that, Patrice. It's a great story, and, it's one of the reasons we started the show, is we've always found that, businesses like yourself, always have a great story. And it sounds like, the franchisees have more at stake, don't they, Patrice? And I'm sure that was probably part of the interest, they have a vested interest in the business, so, it made sense, didn't it?
Yeah, it is, and they're looking to build something. They're not looking for necessarily a part-time job, or they're not looking to try something while they're also interviewing. It's a commitment and skin in the game, actually. So they try harder, try a little longer, follow the system a little better, all those things, that make it important to be successful.
Right. That's terrific. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the industry, Patrice and Brian. I mean, how big is the recruiting industry? Is there growth in the industry right now?
Well, yes, it is in a tremendous industry. Typically typically the staffing industry does well when unemployment is low, like it is right now. But of course, our sweet spot is the hospitality industry because that has been growing exponentially. But the staffing industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry and continues to grow, especially as we see labor markets tighten up at less than 5% unemployment. So it's a tight labor market, and what that means is that companies have a harder time finding people, and that's why they look for the help of recruiters. Now, in our situation in the hospitality industry, because that's been exploding over the last decade and is projected to be one of the top 5 service sector industries for this next decade, mostly due to restaurant growth. And they're opening more restaurant units at a pace than they can keep up with from a talent or labor perspective. The hospitality industry, and specifically the restaurant industry, has a very high turnover ratio, and the demand for qualified workers outstrips the supply. So that's why companies turn to Patrice and Associates is to help them find qualified people. In other words, people that are not responding to the job boards and things for typical people who might be looking for a job. So the industry itself, staffing has been growing exponentially as we're at these lower unemployment rates, but specifically hospitality. has exploded with growth, and that's why Patrice said it's a recruiter's dream, because there's never an issue in finding jobs or companies that need your help. They hire us because they want us to work hard to find the top quality candidates.
The other thing I wanted to add here too is that there are many articles on how lenders are competing to loan money to investors who are leaving the retail industry and going into the restaurant industry. There are so many new concepts, and big companies are franchising like crazy, opening new restaurants. And they're leaving the retail industry because you'll never order a pizza from Amazon.com. So it's just exploding.
That's fantastic. That's a great analogy, Patrice. And I was reading earlier that you have more than 500 national accounts, and a lot of the accounts have actually been on the show. I've seen Buffalo Wild Wings, Arbys. I mean, these are franchises that have been on the show. Who is the typical Patrice and Associates client, Patrice, and what positions does your team typically recruit?
Well, hospitality covers a lot of positions. Yes, it's restaurants, but it's hotels, it's casinos. It's food contracting companies that bid on the concourses of airports, hospital and college, universities, assistant living chains. They have the best chefs in the world. The catering houses, wedding venues, grocery store chains, anything that touches food. And we also do food production companies. And then we find the sales reps for the companies that service this industry as well. So we've done, the operations in the restaurants and executive housekeepers and event planners and banquet chefs. And then every one of our clients' headquarters has the same staffing needs of other companies. We've done accounting people. We've done CFOs. We've done a receptionist here and there. Anything they need, we're able to provide.
That's a nice diversity, isn't it, Patrice?
It's
wide
is.
diversity.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Maybe we could talk a little bit about franchising. Can any franchisee service a national account, Brian or Patrice? And, what are your franchise territories like?
Yes. One of the huge feathers that we have in our cap in terms of a differentiator from a franchise standpoint is that we do something very unusual, and that is that we provide customers to franchisees. Most franchisors don't do that. Some might say they provide leads. How warm those leads are oftentimes questionable. But we have done is gone out and negotiated contracts with companies like Cheesecake Factory, Applebees, Panera, Arbys, Fuddruckers, Corner Bakery, many brands that you would recognize and some that you wouldn't, that are up-and-coming brands, cool concepts that you might see on the Food Channel, bakery concepts, and they outsource the recruitment of their managers to us. So when we sign an agreement at our headquarters, that it becomes a corporate account or a national account, and that is open to any franchisee in the country to service, regardless of where that job opening is at. So, our franchisees, which is pretty common in recruiting in general, our franchisees are working the entire country, in some cases the entire world. As Patrice alluded to, we're in Canada now. We're developing clients in Canada, and we have placed people all over the world. So yes, any franchisee can service a national account. Now, they're taught and trained to go out and develop their own accounts, and many of them do.
Sure.
But the fact that there's that foundation there is what allows our franchisees to, if they follow the system, cash flow their business pretty quickly.
And part of that foundation came from me being in business for 20 years before I started franchising. So I already had agreements with a lot of companies. And so my contracts are immediately my franchisees' contracts. So that creates a situation where cash flow is faster with our model than any other models out there, because they're in business, they go to training. Because it's like buying a biz op, but it's a franchise.
Sure.
So regarding the territories, they have defined territories based on zip codes that they own. They own zip codes based on Census Bureau population numbers of around 250,000 people. About 250,000 people. So they have, I want them to develop that territory. I want them to be the go-to person if somebody either wants to hire a manager or get a job. I want them to join the chamber and the State Restaurant Association, and I want them to go out to eat and ask for the manager and just watch their face when they come to the table and they realize you're not going to complain. And give them your card, say, I'm the franchisee. If you need any managers or if you know anybody looking for a job, give them my card. That's what I do. I help people find jobs for free. And now, of course, that meal's a tax write-off because that's what we do.
That's right.
But, and they can be that person in that size territory and get to know. I want to get back to people knowing people, which is the way I used to do business when I first started this business, and there was no such thing called the Internet then. So I want to get back to that, knowing people and not being all about emails and e-cards. And you can do that, but that size territory is not big enough for them to earn all their income from. So they're free to work the entire country. And we can do that without stepping on each other by way of a shared database, which makes it real easy for them. So now let's talk about flexibility, time zone flexibility. They can work different time zones. There's all kinds of options that give them flexibility in this model. So our territories, although you have a territory, it doesn't matter if you're in the cornfields because you can work Los Angeles, Boston, Miami. So you're not just getting a territory, you're buying a country.
And that's why people get into franchising as well, Patrice and Brian, is to have that flexibility or, I always say that, franchising is a means to an end, isn't it? I mean, that's why you get into a particular type of franchise, and it sounds like, Patrice and Associates certainly provides that flexibility, which I think is fantastic. If you can look into a crystal ball, I mean, are there any, how many units are you looking to add by the end of the year? And maybe if you can think about a 3 to 5 year projection as well.
Sure. Well, our goals are to add about 50 to 60 units on an annual basis. And then we're looking over the next 5 years to, grow to about 400, 450 units. Our disclosure document gives us the ability to grow to 1,100 territories, but our immediate plans and our strategic plan is to grow to about 500 units domestically here in the United States, and then we are looking to expand internationally as well.
That's great. Well, you mentioned, Patrice, you were mentioning, I guess, being in Canada. I mean, is international in the picture then? I mean, do you see Patrice and Associates in other countries?
Oh, yes. Brian and I have a list that we're prioritizing. We're going to focus on the English-speaking country first, and perhaps some of the Spanish-speaking countries because Brian is fluent in Spanish. So those are our plans. We've been looking at places like the UK and Australia, and that's probably a third or fourth quarter move for this year.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about the franchisees. What type of franchisees you're looking for? Are you looking more for owner operators? Are you looking for area developers, Patrice and Brian?
Well,
Go ahead,
I'll start off by answering this question. We are generally looking for people that have sales or marketing ability. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have had the title of salesperson. You have to be able to engage people on the phone because at the end of the day, what our clients are paying us to do is to find the people that aren't responding to ads. So we do that by means of making recruiting calls to find the top-notch people that are interested in perhaps, say, better career opportunities. So we look for people that do have sales and marketing ability, not unlike most other franchisors. We have a diverse group of franchisees. Many of them come from, business backgrounds. Many of them come from sales and marketing backgrounds as well. But we also do extremely well with military people. I think it's because, perhaps they're used to following a system and they tend to be very disciplined and following standard operating procedures. So we have a number of very successful military people in our organization. And they actually are dedicated to helping provide employment to veterans as well as recruiting veterans as franchisees. So those are some things that we look for on the single unit side. Most of our franchisees do operate the business themselves, but we also have many franchisees that hire recruiters so that the franchisees can focus on developing clients and the recruiters can fill their position. We have a few different models available. Single unit model that they can operate out of their home and they can hire virtual recruiters to work with them. We also do have a brick and mortar model where they can open an office and have recruiters report to work. We do have a regional developer model where they're buying the right to develop a larger territory. We have grown exponentially with our regional developer program. We have over 17 regional developers, but we do have some markets that are left, such as New York, such as the Northwest, and a few other markets that are still open. So we're always evaluating other opportunities, considering, different types of multi-unit programs. These are some things that are in Patrice and I's blue sky list in our strategic plan. But right now, our heavy emphasis is on recruiting single-unit franchisees.
That's great. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your all-star franchisees, Patrice and Brian. Maybe what were their backgrounds, before becoming franchisees.
Well, honestly, I have found, sales background is a plus, but it doesn't really always mean the background is not always the number one. Attitude is number one.
Sure.
I mean, when we have a retired Army colonel, he was not a sales guy, but he has the best attitude, the can-do attitude, the ability to be self-motivated and disciplined, and to be able to follow the system. You can't just pick and choose like it's a Chinese menu and pick what you like to do best and, what you don't like to do and think you're going to have the same success. So it's the ability to know yourself, can you follow a system, but to be a positive person and have the right attitude and go out and make it happen because you can. Brian, I'm sure you have something to add here as well.
Well, as I said before, I think to Patrice's point, discipline is an important part of being successful, I think, in any business. There are really 3 or 4 ingredients that I see, as key for our single-unit franchisees. One is the ability to follow a system because, like Patrice said, it's a recipe, and, if you're going to be successful, you need to follow that system. The second is being disciplined. The third is somewhat unique, though, and kind of an interesting thought to think about. And that is that, what we do at the end of the day, as I was alluding to earlier in the show, is we help people. We might take somebody that's working a dead-end job, working 50, 60 hours a week with no upward mobility, and provide them with an opportunity that has a better work-life balance, that has ripple effects on their family. And that is huge. And so most of our franchisees have a genuine desire to want to help people. That really strikes a chord with them because at the end of the day, the people that we place in these great companies, we're providing them an opportunity for a better career path. So the desire to want to help people, not just to make a sale, the desire to want to help people, we find is an ingredient in our franchise network, along with some of the other things that Patrice mentioned.
It's a great feeling, isn't it, Patrice and Brian? And Patrice, I'm sure that's why you started the businesses. And I haven't had the opportunities that you've had, but I teach for Kaplan University, and there's been several occasions where I've given references for some of my students, and then they got the job. And I said, oh, my God. I said, I felt like, I'm part of that. I changed that person's life. And I've only had, maybe a handful of occasions, where, your franchisees, they get to do that on a daily basis. And that must be an amazing feeling, isn't it?
It is. I mean, our mission statement says recruiting is not all about money. It's about helping people. Yeah, we like to make money, but you have to. There are a lot of ways to make money.
Sure.
A lot of franchises where it's just all about money. But if you care about giving back, if you care about impacting people's lives and helping people, this is probably the only industry left in America where somebody can go from a busboy to a regional manager making six figures with a GED. So you help people at all different levels. We're career coaches, helping them get through the interview process and getting them ready for the assessment test. And we're with them every step of the way. And we do all that for them for free because the companies pay us to find them managers. So we're career coaches impacting people's lives every day.
That's wonderful. I think that's fantastic. What's a typical day like for Patrice and Associates franchisee Patrice and Brian? I mean, from the starting the day to the middle of the day till the end of the day. What's that like?
Well, first of all, we're 100% virtual. We don't ever in-person interview anybody, so it's all on the phone. So one of the things that you have to think about in this model is that you can have zero phone reluctance because you're going to be talking on the phone. So you're going to be talking to candidates, potential candidates. You're going to be writing resumes for people. You're going to be coaching them on how to get through the interview process. You're going to be talking to client companies and scheduling interviews, confirming the interviews, everything involved in getting somebody the job. So, the other thing I wanted to point out is because we are 100% virtual, in our model, you don't have to be sitting at your desk to do this business. You don't have to be in your territory. You could have a summer and a winter home. We have a lot of franchisees who are parents who tell me their kids don't care if they're watching their game the whole time. They care that they're sitting in the field. So they're sitting in the field with the game with their child, working on their phone, because it can be done from anywhere. I actually have a franchisee, and she and her partner bought an RV, and they're traveling the country, and she's recruiting, and nobody knows.
That's
so,
amazing.
The typical day is coaching people through the process of getting hired and working with our client companies to make the best matches. We say that we take the best people and match them with the best companies, and that makes for a good career opportunity for somebody.
That's great. You don't get that flexibility with, a lot of other types of models that we've had on the show over the last 10 years. You're kind of like restrained to that, brick and mortar location, and Patrice and Associates does provide that flexibility to your franchisees, which I think is fantastic. Anytime I have someone like yourselves on the show, I like to ask, the majority of our listeners, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs, Patrice and Brian. Most of them know they want to get into franchising, but, as both of you know, there's just so much out there. If you go to a franchise show, there's, hundreds of opportunities. And then if you look at all the franchises in the country and even internationally, there's thousands of them. So a lot of them don't know where to begin. So from everything you've learned up to this point, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise?
Well, I think that as you're looking at investing in any business, whether it's a business opportunity or a franchise, there's a few things that you want to take into consideration. And the big one, the number one, is the industry. You want to know where the industry has been, where is it now, and where is it going. You certainly don't want to invest in an industry that's being commoditized or contracting or going overseas, or for that matter, is a fad industry. There's some franchise concepts that pop up and they sound really good today, but the question is, how long are they going to be around? Are they going to be around 10 years from now?
Correct.
So looking at the history of the industry and the projections for where that industry is going is important. As we said, you want to invest in an industry where the demand usually is greater than the supply, and that's why consumers or customers generally need you. The other thing you want to think about is you want to think about what differentiates you. How much competition is there? Are you going to be one of a dozen people in an MSA? And if so, what does that mean to you in terms of your ability to get and acquire customers, both from a marketing standpoint as well as from a pricing standpoint? The key thing you want to understand is, how does this industry, react in terms of when down economic times occur? Is it relatively recession resistant? Is it in a business model where it's not something discretionary, where if people's pocketbooks are tightening, they're going to get rid of that? And then there really needs to be something unique about that business model, which allows the company to either currently have market share or in the future perceives that they will capture more market share based upon what makes them unique or different. So off the top of my head, those are a few of the things that I would say as advice for listeners, those key points to take into mind: the industry, the differentiator, the competition, and what makes your concept unique, and how you're acquiring market share.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, Brian. One of the questions we've been asking as well is, we've noticed a trend over the last decade is, talking about the first year of business. What advice would you give to new franchisees in their first year of business? Because we understand that it is, always, the most challenging year, of course.
Well, I think it's following the system. We've designed our training program specifically around this question, honestly, because, about probably 95% of our franchisees are first-time business owners. And so they're not only making a transition from employee to business owner, and, oh, by the way, many of them are starting out working from home, which has its whole set of distractions. So it is very difficult. Most other franchisees kind of teach you what to do, how to do it, and give you a territory and say, good luck, go do it after the training. Well, we really have designed a very unique training program. They have a week of virtual training from their home office before they come to training in Maryland for 2 weeks. They're here in Maryland for 2 weeks now, and the first part of the training is classroom, and we focus a whole lot on becoming a business owner. Two people can leave the exact same training and one person be hugely successful and the other struggle, but they had the same training.
Right.
So it's never the book learning that holds somebody back, it's what's going on in their head. And we spend a whole lot of time on that in training to help them make that adjustment. Yeah, we learn how to recruit, and the second week is kind of a learning laboratory where we actually do the job of recruiting. But once that training is over in Maryland, we're not finished. We have 6 weeks of twice weekly post-training where the whole class calls in, and we talk about what's going on with them now that they're in the real world. What situation did they run into that perhaps could have been handled differently? We can coach them through that. Right. Because if it hasn't happened to someone else yet, it probably will, and now they'll know how to handle it. Additionally, they are assigned a mentor, and they're going to talk to that mentor every single day for 90 days. How was your day yesterday? Did you meet your goals? If not, why not? What got in your way? And how are we going to fix it today? Because the first 90 days of starting a new business are crucial. We want to make sure they understand what to do and how to chunk their time and manage their time, on a daily basis and get in that routine. And then after that, most of them have regional developers. There are regional meetings. I do weekly trainings that people can dial into. I travel around the country, and Brian and I both travel around and work with different regions with training. We have our own intranet. So I think, the training and the support to help somebody get past the point of being an employee to a business owner and through that transition time is critical for their first year success.
That's terrific. I think those 90 days, I'm sure it gives great habits too, doesn't it, Patrice? Because
absolutely,
you don't want to develop those bad habits in the beginning. And I'm sorry, Brian. Go ahead. I cut you off.
I was just going to say the only other thing that I would really emphasize and underscore what Patrice said, and for your listeners, is the mentorship is really a key thing. Now, we're fortunate in our organization that we assign a mentor to someone who has been a successful franchisee that will work with them, as Patrice said, over the first 90 days. But I think in general, that's really the key to bridging the book learning, the information that you learn in a training class to the real world. You want to have a mentor within the organization that has been successful so that they can kind of guide you and direct you in the right ways, not only from an emotional standpoint, because everybody has bad days and there are speed bumps in the road. You can look at them as a speed bump in the road or a detour. But also I think it's important for people to, identify somebody in their community that is a successful business person. And begin to network with them, because oftentimes what happens is they wind up opening doors for you, and it comes back to you in a variety of different ways, from referrals to business to other kinds of things. Right. So in addition to having that structured ramp-up process, that mentorship both within the organization as well as identifying a successful business person in your community, I think makes a big difference in you building your business successfully from the get-go and doors getting open for you.
That's fantastic. I think that's great advice. What's the best way, Patrice and Brian, for our listeners to get more information on becoming a franchisee and, of course, the service itself? Any websites that you'd like them to go to? Any numbers they should call?
Sure. Patrice and Associates franchising.com. And the A-N-G is spelled out, Patrice and Associates franchising.com. And our main number is 301-327-5059, and my personal extension is 301.
That's fantastic. I want to thank both of you again, Patrice and Brian, for coming on the show. I've done a lot of these interviews, and I think this is a great franchise opportunity, and I love the industry. So I'd like to invite both of you back, next year as you continue to grow. I think this is a wonderful opportunity.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity, and would love to talk to you again next year.
It's been my pleasure, Patrice and Brian, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Need a business loan? Talk to Diamond Financial Services, the experts in franchise financing nationwide. Whether you're looking to start a franchise, acquire an existing franchise, or expand your territory through opening new locations, Diamond Financial stands by your side start to finish. From pre-qualification to packaging and presenting your application to securing a financial commitment and through the loan closing process, Diamond Financial is there. While you're waiting, thousands of others are making their financial dreams come true. Don't wait any longer. Pre-qualify now by completing a confidential, no-obligation financial analysis. Let's face it, traditional banks just aren't in the business of financing small business. At Diamond Financial, we specialize in securing franchise loans from $100,000 to $3 million and equipment leasing up to $150,000. Let us help you get started. Go to www.franchisefunding.net or call 877-508-2274. That's franchisefunding.net, 877-508-2274.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi everyone, this is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, Don and I have been hosting Franchise Interviews now all years, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on the show. Today you're going to get to hear from franchise consultant and a previous franchisee, Tom Scarda. And Tom has he actually has a bunch of wonderful quotes, but he mentions to buy based on what's good for you and not what's good for the neighborhood. I mean, how often have so many of us, we're driving and you say, God, that would be a great place for Papa John's or a Subway. And, that's not really a good reason to get into franchising, where I suspect some people do. So listen to what Tom has to say as far as his advice to prospective franchisees. I thought he did a great job. Here we go.
I think it's real interesting, Tom, in what you're doing now, and you went through the whole process yourself, so I guess that's why you're having success now with Fran Choice, because you saw it, worked for yourself. Even though, the failure was not an option, I mean, you must have had, just starting up a new business. It was your first time owning a business when you start up the Maui Wowie, right?
That's correct, yes.
So what was going through your, thought process then? I guess you were just... You had some peace of mind knowing you were working with a specialist in franchising, which gave you some confidence, and starting up a business maybe wasn't as nervous to you because of that. That was the whole mindset going in, Tom?
Yeah, and it's a coincidence. I don't know if one of your former interviewees, Carol Mercurio, who I think was actually my consultant back in 2000.
Oh, wow.
She's great.
Yeah, she's very, very cool. She helped me out greatly in this process. And said, really, really set me up to have my mindset in the right frame of mind, I guess. And we, dove into the investigation process, but also the franchise company was very helpful. They were very forthcoming with their information, really told us what it was going to be all about, and said to us, this is not signing a franchise agreement and then becoming a millionaire. This, like a lot of people join a gym, they think just by signing the gym agreement they're going to lose weight. You got to go to the gym. You got to work with them. You got to.
She's very good in getting that information across to you. She probably taught you a few new things about yourself you didn't know because of her analysis and depth that your company goes into when you're speaking to a prospect, right?
Exactly. It was a soul-searching experience. I use that phrase every day. I experienced it myself. And now I take my candidates through that same soul-searching experience where, a lot of people say, well, I love donuts. Let me open up a donut franchise. That's just a silly thing to do. That's not a good business decision. Or somebody will say, there is no whatever in my neighborhood, so I think I should open one. And you should be buying a franchise based on what's good for you, not for the neighborhood.
Right. Yeah, so maybe talk about... Tom, what types of characteristics you think make a good franchisee? I mean, you go through that whole process. You probably know pretty quickly whether someone's a pretty good match or not. But what are some of the top characteristics that make people successful?
Well, there are two very delineating points. Either you're an extrovert or an introvert. And just because you're an introvert doesn't mean that you're not a good franchisee. It just means that you may not want to be the kind of guy who's out drumming up your own business, and you might want something where it's more back office for you. So first we kind of figure that out. But you have to have a lot of self-confidence. You have to be able to know that you can be a success. And people don't realize, even if they're 30, 40, 50 years old in a corporate job, they're successful to where they're at. Right. And then they have to open up their comfort zone and get to the next level. A lot of people are afraid of that. So you have to be a little bit fearless, be willing to take a leap of faith, and know that you can do it, because you'll never find a concept that you're 100% in love with. There's always a little something missing. And I kind of use the analogy of when you're buying a house. You might find the perfect house in the perfect neighborhood, but there's probably something wrong. It might not have the right windows that you want or whatever, and you have to learn to live with it, get into it, and then fix it and work with it. Right. So you have to do that. But as far as characteristics go, it's really the yearning and the want to really make a change for your future. And not everybody's cut out to be a franchisee or a business owner. And, we do need great people running, great civil service systems or what have you. But, for me personally, I could just speak from personal experience. I was successful in transit. I moved very quickly up the line, but then realized that, when I looked at the vice president and the president of transit, they weren't living in the houses I wanted to live in or driving the cars I wanted to drive, but business owners were. So if you got that drive, you can do it. And, of course, that's not for everybody. People are sometimes fine with a very simple lifestyle, and that's great. But I think you need to have the drive, and more than that, you need to have the vision, and you need to be a goal setter. You need to know what your goals are.